In order to master your life, you have to master your mind. And now, I know that this is going to sound like the tarot card, crystal, manifestation, affirmations, mumbo jumbo that some of you don't believe in. And that's perfectly fine if you're not connected to spirituality. I would argue that you are a victim of anything that you don't understand either has to be silly or it's dangerous. And I think that it is not a far-fetched thing to say that the words that we speak, the thoughts that we think, can shape our reality, can shape our viewpoint, and can shape the results that we see in our life. So when I say that you have to master your mind in order to master your life, that's really that's really it. And now this is something I haven't even mastered myself, girl, but I can see the effects of it as I get older. I've had certain successes in my life and I live a sort of unconventional life, not a very typical job. I go after my dreams and, I do things that I guess other people would not take the chance to do. But I've learned throughout the years, like when people ask me, like, oh, how do you get a manager? How do you get started in music? How do you find beats? How do you get a PR person? They ask me all these things. And these are questions that I used to ask too, because before I started to actually do anything, I used to think to myself, oh my goodness, all it would take is one song, and then my life will blow up and everything that I need will be provided for me, the manager, the PR, a stylist, everything will fall into place because that's just how it works, right? You have to become the person who could achieve the things you want to achieve. This applies to anyone. If you're in a situation, and obviously this cannot be applied to every situation, speaking of medical conditions and, maybe financial constraints, but for a lot of situations where you see yourself in a job you don't like, a town you don't like, friends you don't like, doing things daily that don't fulfill you, that don't enrich you, you look around and you say to yourself, how can I be the person I want to be if nothing around me reflects that? How can I say that I want to be fit if none of my friends work out? I never go anywhere near any physical activity. Every time I do a physical activity, I associate it with hard work and discipline and task and forcing myself in negativity. Whereas if you were to think about reframing the way that you see certain situations, reframing the things that we all may not love or some people don't love, like working out or waking up at 3, 4, 5 in the morning, like those, those people that be like my 5 a.m. morning routine, or eating clean. We associate that with loss. We associate that with taking away and restriction and rules. And I don't think anybody really likes rules that much. But when you think of it as a task of self-discipline to show yourself love, you start to see those tasks as enjoyable. You start to feel pride in doing these things that are hard because you know that you are somebody who is capable of doing hard things. I know that all of this is going to sound like mumbo jumbo, and I really don't care because somebody's going to understand what I'm saying. To my point of reframing your outlook on certain things can truly reframe the situation that you're in and your feelings about it. I think that reflects in your goals and the way you go about things. Let's say you have a very outlandish dream. For me, for example, I'm from Flatbush, Brooklyn. I grew up in the hood. Everybody that I went to school with was, like fake rich, was like hood rich. So it's like, oh, everybody was trying to flex their Abercrombie and Fitch. Wait, is it Fitz? Is it Fit? Abercrombie and Fitch? I don't remember, but everybody was trying to flex the clothes that they had. Mind you, we all lived in the same hood. We all went to the same school. We all wore the same uniform. And everybody's family did virtually the same thing. You worked a 9 to 5 job. Flatbush is a more Caribbean town. So, these are Caribbean ideals of keep your head down, work a strong job, and build loyalty. And then you could have peace and retire, and that's it. And I think it's so hard to restructure the walls and the limitations and the borders that your family, your hometown, even your friends have built for you when you were younger. And you're able to start dismantling those limitations when you put yourself in different areas, when you separate yourself from all that you've ever known. I moved out of my family's apartment when I was 23, or I don't know, I think it was like 2 years ago. Literally, it was only like 2 years ago. And the amount of self growth that I've had just from separating myself from that environment, it's been work, but it's very eye opening. And the thing is, nobody is going to understand what you're doing until you do it. And I feel like that's a fear that we all have, like, oh my God, I don't want to start TikTok because I don't want my friends to see it. Oh my goodness, I don't want to do this because what are people gonna say? And as cliche as it sounds, people are going to say what they're going to say. And they're going to say it until you prove them wrong. And then guess what? They're still going to say something after you prove them wrong. And you have to think to yourself, when I'm 80 years old, when I look back at my life, when I think about all that I did and all that I wanted to do and all that I could have done, will I be okay with knowing that I was limited by the thoughts of other people who are either dead, unhappy, or completely removed from my life at that time? You know what I mean? And that's something that's very hard. I'm not saying this as an all-knowing being who's mastered detachment and things like that. These are things that I struggle with on a daily. But back to the topic of mastering your mind will allow you to master your life. And mastering your mind doesn't mean you don't feel hurt when people hurt you. You don't feel anger. You are on top of your game 100%. Mastering your mind means forgiving yourself for mistakes. Mastering your mind means understanding your boundaries are not for other people, but they're for yourself. The things that you do to yourself is a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And this is something that I struggle with too. I have a nasty addiction to social media at this point, like a nasty scrolling habit that I truly want to break. And right now, I'm filming this, it is 5 in the morning because I could not put my phone down. And I decided to myself, you know what? If I'm still awake in 20 minutes, I want to do something that is something that I actually want to do instead of being in this nasty cycle of, I hate that I keep scrolling on the app, continuing to scroll, continuing to self-loathe, continuing to feel frustrated that I'm not doing the things that I want to do. And I just decided, you know what? Let's just end the cycle right here and let's do what we have to do. I think that getting older is understanding the difference between your mind and your brain. Now, your brain is robust, it's structure, it's safety, it's analytical, it's everything that you've been taught to know about everything in this world. It's the rules, it's everything to keep you safe. But your brain is also that negative voice. It's also that thing that's trying to stop you from going outside the box because it's afraid of what'll happen. It's afraid of the unknown. Your brain, in an effort to keep you safe, like an overbearing mother, the ones that keep their kid in a bubble, ends up restricting you, holding you back, and hindering a lot of your success. And so you have to understand the difference between your brain and your mind. Your mind is your connection to the universe. Your mind is where your creativity comes from. Your mind is how we have things like the Lion King or like trains. Have you ever looked at a train and thought to yourself, what would be my first action? What would be my first task in order to make a train right now? And as you think to yourself, oh my goodness, I can never build a train. I have no idea how trains work. I have no idea what kind of physics, what kind of math, what kind of science. I don't know anything about engineering. That's your brain telling you you cannot, you don't have the tools, you don't. Your mind is going to create a train of any sort of imagination. Maybe you'll create a train in a story. Maybe you'll create a train in a drawing. Maybe you'll create a song about a train. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, please forgive me if this is mumbo jumbo, but I feel like people talk so much about grinding and hustle culture and what's the thing called, the like where you wake up for like 70 days and you do something, and there's such an emphasis on physical discipline. A lot of human beings need to work on training their mind, on understanding their mind, like even when you think about things as simple as these TikTok arguments. If you're somebody who's on TikTok, especially Black TikTok, you know that there is discourse about something every couple of days with an intense amount of vitriol to something that is probably not as serious as it may have seemed on the surface, but there are a lot of feelings, a lot of mean words, and a lot of thoughts. And I feel like a lot of these conversations would be a lot more productive if people did a lot more internal work of understanding that the way you interpret, the way you feel inside, the way your mind works, the way you have your view of the world influences the way that you interpret things, the way you respond to things, and the way you judge things. And so, if you have a negative outlook on the world, if you have a oh, I can't be friends with bitches because bitches be haters kind of mentality, if you have a every man trying to play me, so I don't even want one to get next to me, you are obviously not going to take messages from those certain people or from that certain demographic or from anyone with a level of care, a level of softness, a level of understanding that you should. If you're coming at the world with vitriol, you'll see vitriol within the world. If all you have is anger, everything that you see is anger inducing, And I also want to add that mastering your mind allows you to navigate, control, and structure every obstacle that comes your way. You're not in control of the things that happen to you. You're in control of the way you handle it, the way you process it, and the way you move forward from it. As obvious as that sounds, it doesn't feel that way. You know what I mean? When you experience grief, death in the family, or when you experience a tremendous loss, or even not even just the loss of a person or an entity, or even the loss of an ideal, a loss of a goal, when you've lost all faith in something that you've always wanted, you have to understand that the way you navigate that will influence the way things move forward for you. As simple as it sounds, if you know you are deserving, you will move as if you are deserving, and you will receive what you are deserving of. It's literally that simple. But as simple as it is, I think that that is the one thing we're all put on earth to do, is to master our mind, because I think it's the hardest thing to do, and it is the most fulfilling and the most rewarding when you finally do. Also, another goal of mine for 2025 is to stop complaining. As much as I'm telling you that your thoughts, your words, your actions shape your reality, I understand that for myself. I know that I'm somebody that is very prone to being miserable. It's a Caribbean trait. Just being miserable, just hagging and nagging and, complaining, that's something that's very natural to me, and it's a trait that I don't want. It's a trait that I know will not positively affect me. So for 2025, I want to reframe all of my negative thoughts. Now, this comes with limitations. Like, we can't go crazy. So it's like, instead of being angry at the loss of something. Recently, I lost my iPad. I don't know where, by God's name, I don't know where this iPad is. I've been home for weeks. I have not taken my iPad anywhere. Me and my boyfriend flipped the house upside down, cleaning everything. Cannot find the iPad. And now another version of me would be really irked, would be really bothered, and would really be stuck on the fact that I lost my iPad, not looking for a solution, not understanding, that things just happen, not to you, but that's just life. It's not like somebody was like, yeah, it's time for Anika to lose her iPad so that she can have a hard time. That's not how the universe is not focusing and trying to attack you. Things just happen. So instead of thinking of it like, oh my goodness, I lost my iPad, I always lose everything, oh my goodness, like this is so annoying, like how am I do, I could reframe that by saying, I'm so very grateful and so very blessed that I'm in the position that losing my iPad doesn't hinder my abilities. Me buying a new iPad won't stop me from eating, won't stop me from paying my bills, won't stop me from making money. It's just a thing. You know what I mean? And you have to understand that reframing is a very powerful tool. So that's what I'm doing for 2025. Now, there's a couple of things that will make this very hard. When something stinks, I have to say it stinks. I feel like that's not complaining, nonetheless. For me, 2025 is about honoring the gifts and the blessings that I have been given by God, by the universe, by all those who've come before me, honoring myself by doing exactly what I was meant to do on this earth, by pursuing the things that I know are meant for me, and by doing things that are fulfilling to my heart and not just what other people want me to do. So, me making this video is me fulfilling a promise to myself that I am going to be consistent on YouTube no matter what the video has to be. It doesn't have to be a super heavily edited vlog. I don't have to give the girls Diarra. I don't have to give the girls Monet McMichael. All I ever have to be is me, and that is deserving enough. You do not have to be perfect to be deserving. You do not have to be consistent to be deserving. You are deserving just being yourself. And that's something that we all have to learn. I hope you guys like this and let me know what your 2025 mental goals are. Bye.